So anyway, so Unreal is made by a company called Epic. Epic Games has been around since the 90s. Unreal was actually a first-person shooter that was made, I think, like 98, 99. And then people got so into modding it that it became actually a game engine that developers started using to make their own games. You can download it here from UnrealEngine.com, and there's a lot of different ways to get into it from different standpoints in the industry. I've already downloaded it, so we're not going to worry about that. It'll take too much time to download anything from scratch, so I have some things pre-rolled. When you download the Unreal Engine, it'll give you a launcher, which is it looks the same on both Windows and Mac. Because you can purchase content and it stores all information for you, it asks you to log in so you can access some of your information. It's the same way that it is in Unity. First of all, who's used Unity before? Raise a hand. Okay, great. And then anyone use Unreal? Okay, great. So as I told you at the very first class, there's a new release of a new engine out. We're not going to use that one because our plugins we're using for class don't work with that. Once we open up everything, I'm going to go down to the library on the left side, and we have our different engine versions. These can exist side by side. You can have as many engine versions as you want to. Certain features work in certain things, like the Connect 2 works in 4.7, which is why I keep this one here, and that'll be on your MSI stuff, on your MSI computers. We'll be working with 4.8 for most of the stuff because it's the most recent one. And you can add engine versions by just pressing that plus button and choosing which one you want. I'm not going to waste time doing this right now. And then once you create projects, they'll be stored here for you. And then as you start acquiring content from the marketplace and from the free examples, it all starts going in here, and then you can start loading it into other projects or starting it as its own content, as its own projects. And I'll show you how to do all this stuff too. The most important place for you guys to go in the next week and over the course of the semester is the Learn tab. The Learn tab has not only just tutorials, but it has full-blown projects, full-blown games, full-blown environments, and we're going to go into some of those. And they're great to look at things like, oh, well, here's a bunch of free water planes that you might want to have some water in your environment. Or, here's this open world demo has grass and has trees and rocks. Then you have examples of like amazing particle effects, which are fun to steal. And then, then there's different stylized renderings and all that kind of stuff. So you guys can look through this stuff. I'm not going to go through everything. And then once you download it, it gets stored locally and you can add it to projects. You also have a marketplace. It's fairly expensive, but there are some free things, and you can do a ton of things here, including characters, other games, materials, but we're going to be making everything from scratch today. So what I have is I'm going to be using version 0.8, and I'm going to launch this right here. We're going to be presented with the new project menu. And also I recommend having a mouse. It's going to be a lot easier to navigate. So here we go. So we can see that we can load up the projects that we have, and then at the bottom I have this contents samples that are something I downloaded, which is like another 8 gigabytes of stuff, but I'm going to be stealing things from here later on. We go to new projects, and this is the new project window. You're going to see that if you're familiar with video games or any games, there's a lot of different formats. And what Unreal does is it gives you a lot of different templates that gives you starting information and things that you can kind of explore from the scratch. So today we're going to be working in the first-person view. It's a point of view. For the rest of the class, we're going to be using a third-person view, which is you see a character from a camera's point of view. But I'm going to start with the first person, and I'm going to be using Blueprints. Blueprints is a visual scripting language of Unreal. It's node-based. It's data flow. And it's a lot of fun, and you get to make sound effects while you use it. If you want to use C++, I can't help you with that, but you're welcome to use C++. But you have to start a project using C++. So I'm going to create this. Now we're going to go down here to these options here. I'm not making mine for mobile, but you have the options for making it for mobile. Making mine for desktop or laptop. I want to use maximum quality because why not? And then you have the option of starting with no starter content. This week we'll be starting with starter content. It's going to give us like 6 materials, 6 objects, 6 of this and whatever, and we're going to be building our worlds out of these objects and then the things we're going to migrate from some other examples. You can, yeah. Is it too bright, guys?
Is it too bright?
Yeah.
All right. So down here at the very bottom, you'll see a file path, and it's showing you that it's going to download Unreal to my documents, Unreal projects.
Thank you.
If you want to download it to another location, like an external drive, or if you're using the MSI computers at ITP, which have very small solid-state drives and have large storage drives, you'll then navigate to that external drive or the large storage drive to save your project to there. It's very important not to, put too much stuff on the main drive. So I'm fine here, and I'm just going to call this week 2, and I'm going to create a project. And it's going to restart, and it's going to rebuild this thing with the content and with all the things I designated. There we go. And I just posted on Slack, but everything we're doing should be discussed in some detail here in this Getting Started with Unreal 4. It has different breakdowns of things, and you can kind of walk through these. You might not need to because I'll probably go through everything anyway. But I just posted that to week 2 of Slack and created that channel for you guys. So as you see, we open up, and this is called the Unreal Editor. When you would ship a game, you would actually create a standalone. We have your action area, the place where you're doing saving, and you're going to hit play, and you're going to do some scripting is all at the top of this toolbar. On the left side is kind of the things built in with the engine that you can drag into this world. We'll go through some of these in a second. Yes?
Can you import other missions from Maya?
Totally. We're not going to do that today, but we'll do that soon because that involves doing Maya. We're going to let you see Maya, and then we'll talk about that. But that's, yes. If you have stuff, go for it. Roll your own. Down here, this is the content browser at the bottom. This parallels the folder structure in your Finder or Explorer, depending on what your operating system is. I can actually right-click on this and say Show in Finder, and we'll see, yes, indeed, that these folders here match the folders that are here. You can work both ways for dragging and dropping content that are that have already been imported into Unreal. As we're already here, you can kind of see everything is appended with a U asset. When it's been converted, in the same way they're .meta files in Unity. Everything here means it's already imported into Unreal. It's been converted to this thing. If you drag and drop your own meshes, you can't do it in Finder. You have to do it through the content browser, and then it will convert it for you into these U assets. So if you're going to do that, that's the one thing, the one caveat I would say is just make sure you drag and drop, and you're going to hold it and let it go into this space. Since you're going to be working in teams, file management is pretty important. It already gives you some folders. I would also add, this is all fine for right now, actually. Okay, so anyway, we have a map that's open. This is the viewport. And you can mouse around this. I'm right-clicking to pivot. And of course, you can scroll in and out. And I think it's Alt. Nah, whatever. Yeah. So this is like a sample first-person thing. Then I'm going to point you towards the right side, which is called the World Outliner. This is a list of everything that's in this scene. And it's a lot of things. Everything is searchable. So if I'm looking for a wall, I can say wall, and it's now reduce that to only the wall items. So we can find things like that, or we can select items. So I've now selected large cube number 2. And then here's large cube number 1. And I'm going to, and then the one last panel here is your details. For each item, it shows you a few details like where is it located in the world based off of 0, 0, 0, which is important for you guys for when you're doing your motion capture stuff. And then you can rotate items and scale items as well. So all these items are what are called meshes. If you haven't gone over 3D stuff, Pedro Galveo will start doing 3D workshops for your ITP, and ITP students are more than welcome to go to those. It's software agnostic. It's just conceptual stuff. What is the 3D stuff? We're going to be a little bit more functional in this class. Definitely let me know if something is not making sense to you, but he's going to be going over things like what is a static mesh. A mesh is generally the polygons that make up an object inside of a 3D world. Go ahead.
When will that happen? And how do you-
We're going to meet about tomorrow. He's going to start very soon.
There'll be an email or something?
There'll be an email and it'll be offered to all the students and yeah, and he's like, yeah, once we find out, we'll post on Slack, and it's all students, so it'll be over an ITP, and it'll just be like a 45-minute session, and just week by week we'll start plugging through, and things will asynchronously start fitting back in, and things make more and more sense. This is a tool that hopefully you guys will continue to use for a long time, and as you learn more, it's more fun. So we have a static mesh. This large cube right here is a cube mesh, and if I wanted to know where that was inside my content browser, I have a little what is that? A magnifying glass. I hit it and look at that in the content browser. It showed me where that information is. So now if I wanted to copy and paste it and make another instance of it or anything like that, I found it. If I wanted to change this this first-person cube rounded to a cube mesh with this selected still in my viewport, I can now import with this left arrow right next to the magnifying glass, and I've now changed it to a different object. So the static mesh for the object, you have a static mesh that can change, and you can switch it out. In the same way, you have materials you can switch out. So I'm going to move this back to the cube, and now I'm going to look at this material. We're going to go into materials at more length next week, but in the same way I can find that there's all these lists of materials, and they all look really nice and white and boring, and I'm going to make it like an orange. So by selecting it and using the arrow, I've changed it orange. I can also drag it on over here, and you see that also works that way. We're not going to deal with physics, just going down this list of details. These are everything you know about objects.
Just doing this to like create your world.
Yeah.
Add items.
Yeah, you have the starter content, you have these materials, you can do some stuff. You can add items, you can drag in new items. Like if we went back to this large mesh and I wanted to find more of these large cubes, I can go find it, and I can just drag instances off of it into the world. F will, yes, will zoom you into there. And so just talk to you a little bit more about navigating the viewport. This is a perspective view. You can also look at things from top, bottom, left, right, front, and they'll just change the way everything, and most of these will go into a wireframe mode. And you can kind of move things around on just 2 axes at a time this way. Perspective. And then the items here is you can move the objects, you can rotate the objects, and then you can scale the objects.
So earlier when you were moving the object, it's just partially in the floor, or what looks like the floor?
Yeah.
That's what that is.
Yeah. So other things are like snapping and all that kind of stuff. We're not going to get into that, but there's levels of detail in the control. I'm moving around this. If you're familiar with first-person shooters, there's a way of navigating called WASD. W is forward, A is left, D is right, S is back. This is a quick way to navigate throughout the space and do little fly-throughs. Okay? And now, without further ado, I'm going to hit play. So now I'm in this world, and as I could tell you, as I've told you, this is based off a first-person shooter, so yes, it does emphasize violence a little bit more. A lot of the naming conventions will, things like pain volumes and that kind of stuff you might see. That's just what it's made from. Everything has built-in physics kind of already based off of the size. It automatically makes that. We'll deal with physics later. Like big objects can't be moved as far, but they can move a little bit. I'm just left-clicking to shoot, and then jumping is spacebar. This is kind of a way to explore this first-person view. All right? Yeah, go for it. So that's going into kind of the materials thing I was talking about. So if I just go down to, like, we don't like this cube right here, right? So this is just a plain grid that is nothing. If I actually go to where the material is, and I hit the down arrow, it'll filter out all materials for me and only show me things I can use as a material. So I can say, where's something fun? Glass, yeah. Yeah, there's all sorts of things, and nothing's wrong, right? We're just exploring and doing everything like that. So this is how to navigate. These are how to figure out how to use Unreal Editor. We're now going to start from absolute scratch. Hey, what's up? Sure. Yes. Yeah, those are WER. And there'll be more and more shortcuts, and you'll pick up on them.
Those are when you're in flight mode.
So the WASD when you're flying around is, I'm sorry, I'm so like used to this, is actually, I'm holding down my right mouse button. This is why you need to have a mouse when using this kind of stuff. It makes it a lot easier. So I'm right mouse buttoning, and then I can use WASD. Thank you, Rudy. That's a great point. There's other things in here, but we'll get to that stuff later. So this is great. I'm happy. I'm going to save this, and but I want to create something new. So I'm going to go to File, New Level. And I can choose to do something with like a little bit of a sky in there that already has a beginning to it, which is nice and pretty. But for me right now, I'm going to roll my own from nothing. This is your blank canvas. It's awesome. Yeah. Yes, and I'll show you that. Yeah, we're going to drag in a first person. It'll default because we created this entire project. This is a level out of a project that is a first person project. You can change between levels if you want to, but that gets a lot more complicated, and we're not going to do that in this class. So everything we can create will be a first person by default. I'm going to go back over to these kind of built-in content stuff here on the left, and I want to show you that you have a thing called BSP. These are brushes. This is how we're going to build our world today. This is like a brush just like in Photoshop, but it's in 3 dimensions. We can additively or subtractively create worlds. We're going to create kind of like a level, kind of like a Minecraft thing, and build out of these Legos this week. So I'm bringing out a box, and there it is. This box, as I fly around, it's just it is very similar to those static meshes, but it's very malleable right now. You can actually change and construct everything inside this space. I am going to take this box, and I am going to go over here to this. There's this little thing that looks like a trash bin. It's actually editor mode. When I go in here, I can actually take individual points and change it, and I can build geometry this way. So this way, if I wanted to, I could build like a ramp. And this is a great feature. I don't know if this is this in Unity 5?
So sorry, when you're starting from scratch like this, you just add a cube. Does that cube become, is it still just an object in your world, or does it become the world?
This is an object in our world. It's well, this is a little vague because like right now we're in pitch black. So how about I just apply, and we have this thing that lives here, and we're done with editor mode. We're going to go back to our objects. Okay. So let's add some light, and let's add an atmosphere so that I'm sorry it's a little cropped on the left side of the screen. I think you guys can pick it up though. So we're going to go to lights, and we're going to add a directional light. Now that you see I have this directional light in here, and not everything is lit. Only the things that are facing, only the faces of the geometry that are facing the light are showing any visibility. A directional light, doesn't matter where you move it, it's only about rotation. So to give us a little bit more of an environment, I'm going to go to Visual Effects, and I'm going to add in an atmosphere. So now we have kind of like a horizon line. And just to make it a little more interesting, I'm going to go back to the directional light, and remember the details panel. I'm going to go over here to the details panel, and I'm going to choose to use this light, directional light, as let me just do this real quick. Let me do this again. Let's see. It might already default to it. Well, you can use this as a sunlight. I've actually I built my demo this morning in 4.7, and it's already changed to 4.8. But anyway, we can see everything now. We can continue to move on. So I want to go back to what I was talking about additive and subtractive things, as these are brushes. So as I bring in different objects and I put them on top of each other, they kind of blend. I'm going to go back to move, and I'm going to move it forward. And these things actually form a unified geometry. And they'll become one solid thing when I convert it into a mesh. In the same way, and this will be much more visible, when I take this cylinder brush and I say subtractive, and now you can see what I'm talking about. It's because there's some broken polygons, and that's don't worry about that for right now. So let's start from scratch, and let's say we want to build some sort of place within this world that we can put a character on. So I'm going to put back in a fresh box. I'm going to resize it, and then I'm going to see over here, when I get close to this, I can select two axes to extend on at the same time. Before, when I squashed it, I did it with just holding down one of these handles. But if I go to this line that connects two different axes together, I can move it around on two different. Let me zoom out so you can see that better. So there we go. So now we have a surface for a character. I am going to go to the basic options, and when I add in a player start, this tells me where I want the character to begin, which is denoted by this little capsule here, and it has a blue arrow on it. If you're getting close, that blue arrow is showing me that the character will start off facing that way. I hit play, and there I am. I'm on this box, and I can move in this world. I will just fall infinitely. So, so basically, we are using a game engine. A game engine has some features in it that are super important that we're about to talk about. It has built-in physics. So gravity is always a default of negative 9.8 meters squared. It has collision. It knows when things overlap other things. And that's super important for how we're going to move our bodies and have our performers actually generate their own effects within the world. You can alter the physics, and we'll probably get to that. If I go quicker, we can get that today. And so, yeah, look how tiny it is. This is all fun. So obviously, if I was going to make a video game, I would say if you fall off, when your character equals negative so many spaces, move it back up to the top, subtract this many health points from it, and then respawn it, kind of thing.
What's the program language for doing things like that?
So that's called blueprints.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm like way off in the middle of nowhere. I'm going to double click on my player start, and it'll hit me right here. So we have some. I want to emphasize that we're going to be kind of like building things. So definitely like we're going to take materials and put them on these things, and we're going to use these brushes, and it has like built-in stairs and spheres and all this kind of stuff. Don't worry too much about bringing in your own stuff. Just try to deal with this stuff and carve out your own little world as you get comfortable using the tool. I'm going to do a point light right here. So, and the way I said directional light, it only matters which way it's the angle that it is referencing. So if I go to rotate, and I rotate it around, you see that as I rotate it, it changes the way the light affects all the geometry. The exact opposite is true of a point light. Point light, rotation makes no difference. It is a point in space. What matters is where it is in space. And I'll move it over here to the...
And the volume.
And then, and it's fall off. But so you can see now, as it gets closer to that shadow.
Can you scale that too? So
you can scale the effect. You see now when you go out here, this is like the attenuation of that. I'm going to go back in here. And so let's look at the details panel. When we start scripting, we're going to script moving lights next week. But right now, the more stationary your light is, the better quality the lighting it is. And Unreal has beautiful lighting. If we were going to move this around, we'd have to change it to movable. But right now, it's fine. Obviously, like color, is awesome to change. And you have a bunch of lights of different colors. And then you have what we were talking about, which is the attenuation. So this can go a little further, further, and it's supposed to work, but I might be overpowering it with the directional light in there too. Let's take off and go to my directional light. And there's this little eyeball here. And there's this atmosphere. And let's see if we can make this attenuation actually work. Might be matter. So we have intensity as well. So let's see. So there you go. And you'll see it flares up pretty cool. And this is real time. I'm not even hitting play yet. There's another great feature of Unreal that can do this stuff. And why I ask people to plug in, because I actually, even though I'm plugged in, I'm at 100 now, but earlier I went all the way down to 88% charged, even though I was plugged in doing stuff. Okay, so now we're going to turn these different things back on. We have a light that's really bright and beautiful. And we're going to talk about a little bit of interactivity. You continue to go through every single thing on the left side, look through the documentation to find more things. There's unlimited, not unlimited, obviously. There's a lot of tutorials up online as well for world building. So, the scripting language for Unreal is called Blueprints. Today we're only going to deal with level blueprints. If you go to Blueprints here at the top center, and we go down here to Open Level Blueprint, okay? This is Blueprints. These are your friends for the next little bit. So we're going to see right here, there's a couple of things. We have event tick. If you're familiar with Max, this is like your metro. It's going to continuously feed data and let you know the frame rate of your thing. We're not actually going to use that one today, so I'm just going to delete it. We are going to use event begin play. It's ghosted right now. Once I connect it to something, it'll turn. You'll be able to tell that it's red. Events are happenings inside of the world of video games. These are things that trigger other things, and oftentimes it's collisions. You hit something that you were or were not supposed to hit, which creates a snowball effect of other things. So we want this on the event begin play for it to do something. So in this world, we're going back to the light details. I'm going to go down, scroll down to the bottom, and I'm going to say that I don't want it to be visible. So that light is off now. If I hit play, bam, that light is off. Okay? I hit escape and I get out of there. If I go back into my level blueprints, which I have docked here, by the way, everything is dockable, malleable, dragged and dropped as you see fit to make your own space. Find your own workflow to make things make sense for you. I'm going to go back into level blueprints real quick. And I'm going to say on event begin play, I want this light to turn on. Well, with this point light selected, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to right click, and you can see that it is intelligent. It knows what I have clicked over there in that world outliner. And I want to refer to that point light. So I have this now reference to this point light, and on event begin play, I want to toggle visibility. When I right click, this is everything you can have it do. Well, this is everything you can have these objects do. I have a context sensitive button. If I uncheck that, now that's everything that's possible in the entire game engine. You can just go through these and find things and inspire you. In fact, that's what you probably do. Not everything, but a lot of things, so that you can see things that are possible. But for today, I just want to toggle visibility. I'm going to take off the context sensitive, and then I have toggle visibility. So this is a function that is written for you in C++, but we don't have to worry about it because it's encapsulated here in this node. These white arrows are showing the data flow. Everything happens sequentially. So we're at event begin play. We want to toggle visibility. Well, what are we targeting? What's toggling? Oh, well, we're going to actually drag and drop over here to the point light. And it created that for us. So to see if this works, I'm going to compile, and I'm going to go back to the world, and I'm going to see that my light is still off, but when I hit play, it's actually on. Okay, well that wasn't that much fun. Let's make this more interesting. So escape. I'm going to go back to, over here we haven't looked at volumes yet. There's a lot of different volumes, and a lot of them make sense, like blocking volume means you can't go through it. Kill zone or kill Z volume, and But we're going to go to the very last one, which is a trigger volume. This is the basic concept of like gaming engines, is the fact that when you go places, you trigger certain things. So over here, there's my trigger volume. I move it down to the ground, and I can resize it if I want to, and make it a thing that takes up space. All right? So I'm going to go back into this level blueprint, and I don't care about a begin play. I'm just going to disconnect it by right-clicking and breaking the link. I'm going to keep it, but I don't need it. It'll be fine. It'll still compile. But I'm going to right-click. Now that I have my trigger volume selected here in World Outliner, I am going to right-click and make sure it's context sensitive, and it knows about this trigger volume. Now we know that red things that do things are event, so I want to add an event for a trigger volume. And it's a collision. And I want, whenever I overlap that volume, I want it to do something. Now that I've clicked this, I have this event. I am going to make this event connect the execution pin, that's what it's called, exec, execution pin, and it's going to, when I go in the volume, execute visibility. So, go ahead.
Is there any way, like, I would never refer to the word collision in that circumstance? Is there any way we can go kind of like...
So the Unreal link I just put in Slack week 2 has a glossary of terms. It would be helpful to go through them. It's not big. It's not big. But your video games are about collisions and physics and that kind of thing. So that you'll be hearing a lot of collision or overlapping, and it's just through experience, and we're going to explore this kind of stuff. So let me know if I'm not being clear, and I'll definitely include things. So it's great. So we're toggling visibility. I've compiled, and I'm going to now go back and play, and it should work that when I go, oh, look, there it goes. But we're toggling, so when I go back in, I can also turn it back off. So I want to go in and turn on, and when I want to go off, I want it to go off when I leave. So I'm going to go into the level blueprint, and I knew that when I had this trigger volume selected here, that I could do begin overlap, but I also saw when I was snooping around that if I look at the events that I can occur from using this trigger volume, that I can also do when I end overlap. So now we have another item. So when you go through and when you leave, it'll toggle. These can both execute the same function. So again, light goes on, light goes off, light goes on, light goes off. Yeah. Hmm? That's actually compiling code like you would do when you hit run on processing, or if you're using... it's going to error out, yeah, it'll give you errors. So it has to actually... So the beauty of it is that you have these functions you could drag and drop, but it still has to, when you're done moving around, it still needs to put it all together and concatenate it all. But it's beautiful that it can do that for you that easily. So we're no longer satisfied with having just a light that could turn off and on. So what are some other things we can do with lights? Well, I can select my light, or actually I can go in here and I can drag off my light, and then I just let go, and there's all these different things that are context sensitive that I can do with my light. And I know from previous experience and from earlier today that I want to toggle, or I want to change the color. Let us set color.
So you didn't know that you had to use the function set color, but you knew that you wanted to do something with color, so you just type color. And then you do all the things that you can do.
All the things I want to do with color I can do here, and I'm just going to see if I can find setting color. I happen to know that, let's see, that we have color, and I made it context sensitive, and I see that under rendering components for lights that we can set the light color. And we can also get light color, but we're not going to do that for right now. You can set or get things. If you're sending things to functions, you're setting it. If you're pulling from functions, if you're returning from functions, you're getting. So now I have setting my light color. So even though it's white in the world, when I compile, go here, and hit play, and go to it, it'll be blue. Oh, well, shit. It'll be blue now. It'll be blue now. It'll be blue now. Well, okay, now it made me mad. So, because I didn't execute it. So I need to actually make it happen. So we're going to go into flow control a little bit, and this is the only flow control. You're going to do a lot of flow control, which is a lot of fun, but it says that you can do, it tells you where to do things at different orders. So I want it to set color before I turn it on, but at the same time. So if I try to do this execution, it's removed it from this visibility. I realize that I can only execute one thing from an event. So what I need to do is I know that there's an object called sequence. Sequence lets me choose the sequence of events. And this will be very important when we do the event tick that's always sending out metro, it's always sending out data. You're going to tell it which things to do first. And it's really beautiful to look at. So I know that I want to set the color, and then I want it to toggle the visibility. If I need more pins, I can add more pins, and we can do infinite amount of things.
So this is very similar to how Max is built.
Yeah. That's why I'm a happy camper. So I might have done something wrong. So what we're gonna do is look at my level blueprint, and what's the color? I made the color black. I made the color black. That's not so fun. There we go. Boink. And look at that great little flares. Oh yeah, look at that stuff. So I'm going to just do one more thing, and then I'm going to kind of open up to questions and that kind of stuff. I'm going to take a screenshot of this and send it on Slack so you guys can recreate this, and you can mess around with this. Lights and colors, you can make objects toggle visibility, and we can create different worlds. And I want you guys for homework to kind of create this world, build some things out with your blocks, and then if you can make like 3 interactions, just 3 things that happen. I also want to point out that we have all key presses are built in here. I can say the letter Y shows up, and Y is also an event thing. I can make Y also toggle visibility. So it doesn't have to be just a character colliding with things. It can be, right? But it's not making it blue because I didn't use a sequence. If I get my controller, we can see that when I get my controller, anyway, you can see that I'm actually executing these things. And you can debug by seeing, like, so if I go into, boom, you can see the sequence now working on the overlap. So this is a great way of debugging. Yeah.
You made like an area that trigger. Is it just a symbol to make an object to trigger?
Yeah. So using all the tools we used before to resize things, you can make any object a trigger. But for right now, let's just use this square trigger volume. And you can do custom trigger volumes, and you can model your own, all that kind of stuff. Is that the question you're asking?
No, like
Go ahead.
I mean, you could, for instance, say when someone gets to the second step.
I would just take another one of these, and when I throw in a trigger volume, it's going to be named trigger volume number 2. And I don't know where it went, so I'm going to double click on it to find it, and it went over here. And I'm going to move it, and I'm going to make it shrink. And now I have, when I go to the stairs, I can make another light turn on, or I can make another block visible. Like I could maybe be able to step on something, but it's invisible because I've made it hidden down here in the details, and then you're going to toggle the visibility. Yeah. I can't help you when it comes to C++. Yeah, sorry. I'm sure there's plenty of tutorials online. I'm sure we can get you some lynda.com thing or something like that from the library if you want to do C++. Yeah, because I'm doing the coding. This is, for me, I find this intuitive and fun just because I come from a Max and SP background. You're more than welcome to do C++. Go for it. It's great. But you can compile an entire project without having to do any coding. So one last thing. So I want this color to be different every time I toggle the visibility. So I know, so I'm going to show you how to actually get to an RGB value. This is like a linear color light. If anyone knows what linear color is and they know C++, let me know what that is. But for now, I'm going to right click and split it. And so that's something you could do to things that are structures. That's a C++ term, is like the structure is a combination of different inputs. We're splitting that structure, and now you'll see I have an RG and a B. We'll go into coding in different data types in 2 weeks, but for right now I know that I want to have a random float. I type in random float, and it's in a range. So in a range from 0 to 1, give me one new R. If I right click, I can duplicate, or if I use, I think it's Control W. Yeah, Control W, I can duplicate. I'm going to do a random G, and then a random B. We're going to keep the alpha there at 1 as a default. You can just type in these variables as well. If I always wanted B to be 1, I could just type it in manually. Compile, and let's try it out. So, actually, let's look at it first. So you execute things from one execution pin to the other input, but you can also pull data. What this is going to do is that when it gets this execution pin, it's going to pull these numbers from here to the left. It might be counterintuitive, but that's just the way that you can get numbers. We'll go into more to getting and setting soon. So when I hit play, it's going to be one color, it's going to be another color, it's going to be another color, it's going to be another color. That seems like the same color. That's a different color. So now we've made pretty colors, and you can see how you can do infinite kind of stuff just with this. Yeah. So every time it's getting a new random value from a stream, from a random generator. So this is another function. See right here, it says f. This is a function of getting random numbers from a range. In every instance of the execution, every time it hits it, it's pulling a new random value for all 3 of those.
So it's not like what a compile stores.
No.
Like it's actually triggered by the pull.
Yes. So each execution is a new instance of a number. So you can so in the same way we can let's see. So we have like 10 minutes left. I want to make sure that I answer any questions. Go ahead. Yeah, there's a console. It's I mean, first of all, just visually is a great way to see if things aren't connected, right? But there is a console, and you can also print to the screen as well. If you just say print, there's print string. So every time I toggle a visibility, I want to say the word toggle. Compile, I hit play, and it's going to be in blue on the top left. Toggle. Also, there is a console, and there's some other things we haven't looked at, and developer tools. So you have debugging tools, visual stuff, and I think it's called the output log or the message log. No, it's output log. I don't know. Maybe if you find it, let me know. I just did message output log. So this is your console that's like extremely verbose. You can kind of like filter it though. This is like everything we've been doing this entire session. So yeah, there's.
Coming handy when your project crashes and you don't know why.
So yeah, the one thing if you don't like having these guys' arms around all the time, I'd love to make this one visible in game. Let's see if that works. Damn, I don't want them. Whatever. So yeah, of the other items we go through really quickly. important things. Yeah. This is everything. So what we're going to do is you can just take a screenshot in both, Mac and PC. I just want you guys to make something you think it looks pretty cool, and then take what's called a hero shot. It's usually a little bit of a low angle. It looks kind of up at your stuff. If you think it looks cool, then show me that it looks cool by taking a little screenshot of your world. We're not going to look at the worlds in class because we have two people here to go through worlds this time. But just send some screenshots, put it on your blog. Tell me what the interactions you were in there, or any ponderings you might have, any questions, any I can't wait to do this, but I didn't know how to do it this time. And then once you have it on your personal blogs, post a link in week 2, and then I'll review it, and then we'll personally contact you about whatever content you have there and discuss. And this is a work in progress. If you want to get someplace and you have some questions, let me know first. Or if you want to do a different thing, let me know. Yes, Matthew.
I just found has any of the
No.
well, apparently they at the aspect because they were working on a game for Unreal Engine, they finished it, but they didn't have all the assets for the game, the weapons and I thought it was
You brought up a good point, and I'm actually negligent, guys. I'm going to save this real quick, and I'm going to save this map as a test for week 2, and I'm going to actually go back into my Unreal launcher, and I downloaded this contents example. I'm going to open it up, and it's going to open up another project, and I'm going to show you really quickly how to migrate content so that you can steal a couple of items from other things. You don't have to know how they work at all. You're just going to take some things you think are pretty. And this is just an example of just seeing what's out there in the world. So let's say I go to Effects, and I say Open. So what Unreal does is for some of these levels is it just has this gallery of things. And we're going to practice just going through these and taking them. Later on, we'll be manipulating them. I won't let you just take something. I know what they all are because I've stolen all of them before. You're going to be altering them by changing the color, by triggering to turn them on and off, and all that kind of stuff. But for right now, I'm just going to go to this beautiful GPU sprite with collisions, which is wonderful. I am going to find this blueprint over here in the content world outliner. I'm going to go say, show this to me in the content browser. There's this thing. I'm going to go to Asset Actions by right-clicking it and giving it the context menu. I said Asset Actions, and I'm going to hit Migrate. It shows all the things that are implicit inside this this object, and I say yes, those are the things. I'm going to trust you, and it is going to ask me where my content folder is for my project. This is when we're going to need to know how to migrate the Finder or the Explorer window of our project. And we know that we have our things in, because we made it, we're going to go to Documents, Unreal Assets, Unreal Projects, help me, all the way down, Unreal Projects, and then I made mine week 2, and I selected my content folder. I'm going to hit Open. It's going to migrate successfully, and then I'm going to close this whole thing, and then this should update, and I'm going to go back up to Content, and I'm going to say, oh, Example Content, Effects. Oh, wow. There's this thing, and you might not see colors at first. It has to compile, and there we go. The shaders are compiled, and I have this wonderful collision GPU particle thing that I had no idea how to create whatsoever until week 8. And then it's there. And then in the same way, with this selected here on this side, I can right-click, and I can create a reference to it. And then I can say that I know, because I did a little searching, and I searched on Google, like everyone else can, that I can activate and deactivate particle effects. So, activate. And it's going to be when I overlap with this, or actually I could just make it a key press. So I'm going to make it P. P, when P is pressed, it's going to activate. And when P is released, I'm going to deactivate. So, oh, and the other thing is that for it to be, it has to be deactivated to start off with, but that's fine. We'll just go through it and then deactivate later. So let's hit play. It's already on, but then when I go in, turn on my light, when I leave, should deactivate. Oh, come on. Oh, yeah, right. Thank you. What was mine? P? Yay! There we go. Beauty. This is almost like, this is, you guys can already see how this stuff can happen inside your performance. This stuff could be parented to different parts of your dancers' bodies, or it could be a thing that gets triggered when they actually go through a volume. These trigger volumes, actually live now inside of this mocap room. And then as your performer will go into them inside this world, inside there, you'll be doing the same triggering that you're doing now with this character you'll be doing with your third-person character. And we'll show you that next week.
Can you show them where to get all of these examples?
So it's where I showed you guys before, but thank you, Javier. Let's make this super abundantly clear. If we go back to our launcher, all these things were under the Learn tab. And for instance, that content example, which is it's super big, but you can get from other places, is in these different things. So it'll tell you how big it is before. So content examples. I go in here, I find which engine version I want it to download for, and then I say create project, and that puts it in my library.
So do you figure out what version of engine you're using?
You should probably use 4.8. 4.9 won't run with our plugin, so you can just delete it by using the down arrow next to this, and you can say remove, and it will delete it.
I don't have a space to install anything.
That's fine. That's why we made sure you guys had laptops to use. Yes.
I got two things I want to do. One is what's due next week.
The do is so you're gonna make
Well, with everything. Sorry, with the mind maps, with the computer.
So can you go back to the syllabus?
so yeah. This has all been updated in the syllabus.
It's all correlated because from what you did today, you're gonna get all of those stuff, right, to create your map, your elements. And then from that, you're going to say, oh, I found this in Unreal that makes sense with that. And it's sort of like connecting your process of creative thinking to what you're actually building in Unreal. So if you go, like in the lecture, there is that iteration process. This is the phase when you're prototyping. You're not making your own. You're migrating content from the examples into your own project. And that's your first stage of prototyping your ideas.
Are we still making a mood board on Pinterest?
Yeah.
Based on the reading?
So yes, because next week we're going to talk about environments.
And we're actually going to build like landscapes and actually flesh out some worlds. So yeah, is this informing their mood board, or is this informing what they're building?
So the reading also is the importance of pre-production, and that is in the book. In mocap for artists. So this will give you prompt to what's your shot list, what their scenes are you going to take, because once you go into the mocap space, you're going to define what you're going to capture. You're going to say, this is my shot, this is what the movement does, this is what the environment feels like, and these are all of the elements in my 3D world. All of that was previously thought here, and then it was previously thought in